on your table if it is still outstanding. Great. I would like to advise members that our next vice chairman will be appointed at the next meeting, and we will take nominations at the next annual council meeting after the elections. I would like to send huge congratulations to Councillor Jessica Stiff on behalf of the council. Councillor Stiff and her family have given birth to their new baby, Meredith Sophia Katie. Meredith was born on the 11th of March and weighed 2.85 kilos. And may I say, she looks absolutely beautiful. So well done her. My recent events have included artist exhibition at Watford Museum, the Ukraine in Our Hearts event at St Mary's Church. That was just the most amazing event, and we were absolutely honoured to have pianists that are world renowned. So a fantastic event. And on the year's anniversary of the war in Ukraine, the camaraderie and the togetherness of the Ukrainian people that live in Watford was absolutely amazing. So it was a fantastic event. We've also had the Commonwealth Day flag raising. We've had the topping out ceremony at the town hall, all those wonderful windows, and also family centre service, baby fair at Meriden Community Centre. So can I also point out to members, I will be holding another rock and roll bingo. Yay. At Watford Rugby Club on Friday the 28th of April. This is serving the official Minds at War and building heroes, and can be booked through W3RT. Also, my gala dinner on the 12th of May is at Watford Football Club, and you can get tickets via Helen Smith. I would also just like to thank all those councillors who are standing down at this year's elections for their service to the council and residents over the past years. Thank you all. Okay, agenda item number 5, the Mayor's report. A report of the Mayor is attached to the agenda. Please can you raise your hands now if you wish to speak, to ask a question of the Mayor. I will make note of all members who wish to ask a question and read out to make sure that I haven't missed anybody out. Please raise your hands now. So that's Councillor Matt Tremaine, Nigel Bell and Jack Tardinsa. Anyone else over this side? No? No, great. Okay. So if I can just make sure I've got everybody, that's Councillor Bell, Councillor Tremaine and Councillor Jack Tardinsa.
Your friend.
As always. To remind you all, each questioner will have no longer than 1 minute per question. There will be no statements or supplementaries, except for Councillor Bell, as the leader of the main opposition group. Only members on the list may ask questions. Please can I now invite Mayor Taylor to present his report.
Thank you, Councillor Grimston. Just a couple of things to add to the report. First one, can I add my thanks to those members who won't be standing in the elections in a few weeks' time for their service to this council for all that they've done. And the second thing that wasn't in the report, last week, Watford Council won a national award at the IC Awards, which was great recognition for the work of officers. It was to do with the values, the work that we've done here at the Town Hall. So I'd like to thank officers, and it's always good to see Watford winning awards as they did on that occasion.
Questions by members of the council?
No, you've now got to ask each of the members to they want to ask the Mayor a question. So you're back to Councillor Bell. So you're still on.
Oh, right, sorry, I do apologise. Councillor Bell, you can now ask your question.
Thank you, Chair. Mayor, can I, through you, thank your officers, I think it's Jamie Fraser and then Ben Martin, for confirming the 3 sites for the initial mobile CCTV cameras at Queen's Avenue in West Watford, and then, of course, Francis Road and Queen's Road in the Central Ward. And can I ask if we were going to see this programme rolled out across the borough?
Thank you, Councillor Bell. And yes, it was something that, excuse me, I committed to in my manifesto. We passed a motion at this council saying we're going to do it, and it's good, as you say, that progress is being made. The 3 mobile CCTV cameras that are going in, it's a pilot to see how effective they are, and of course, once we've completed that pilot, looking at other locations and if the scheme can be expanded.
Thank you for that. Obviously, you've been in power, the Liberal Democrats have been in power for over 20 years, and it's something, mobile CCTV, that we on the Labour Group, Labour Party for years have called for doing. And I know the 2 of those sites are obviously in Central Ward. Can you tell us what you think of this shows of your record, the Liberal Democrats' record in power, that these 2 prominent sites, Francis Road and Queen's Road in Central Ward, prominent in Watford, have been in such a mess and a state for so long?
Okay, not for the first time. There's a really obvious kind of contradiction in Councillor Bell's position, because on the one hand he's saying, why have you not done it? And then he's saying, why are you doing it? So it's either we shouldn't have done it or we should. My view is we work really closely with the police on all of these matters. We have an excellent community safety team. We fund 300 CCTV cameras right across the borough. There's actually several councils in Hertfordshire who don't have any CCTV funded by their council. We have those also monitored 24/7 right across the week, and we're, as I say, working very closely with the police. So CCTV is an important part of our response to crime and antisocial behaviour in the town. We're constantly reviewing it, and I know we'll be discussing issues in Casterbridge Park later this evening. But I'm pleased of the record of our council in making sure that we have CCTV, that we fund it right across the town, and we're going to maintain that.
Thank you. Councillor Tremaine.
Thank you, Chair. In the Watford Observer on the 23rd of January, it was reported that the efforts by the Mayor and the MP to secure £16 million from the Levelling Up Fund had not been successful. In the article, it's quoted that, however, without extra government funding, we will not be able to deliver the maximum benefits of these plans, referring to council plans. Can you tell us what we're going to miss out on? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Tremaine. I would say, the first thing I'd say, I think the whole system of local government funding, where you spend a lot of time putting in for these bids, makes no sense. It takes up a lot of officer time, and it can be obviously very demoralising if you're unsuccessful. 80% of councils that bid for funding in round 2 of the Levelling Up were unsuccessful. So, 4 out of 5 councils didn't get the money. And I hope whoever's in power after the next election looks to simplify the system and give councils money so they can deliver on the priorities of the local residents. Our Levelling Up bid had 2 parts to it. Part of it was about the Coliseum, and the other part was about an innovation and incubation hub. As you'll know from Cabinet this week, we've delivered on the works around the Coliseum by reallocating funding from SIL, for example, which was in the council paper. The second part, the Innovation Incubation Hub, is going to be a lot more difficult to deliver, and what we'll have to deliver is something that isn't as ambitious as we would have liked. If you don't secure £16 million, that has an impact. So I was really disappointed we didn't. Obviously, we're continuing to work with the ministers and officials to try and look at other alternatives. And of course, officers are now reviewing, working with partners, what can we deliver within the cost envelope. But being unsuccessful in that bid was obviously, as I said in that report, really disappointing.
Thank you.
Councillor Dinser.
Yeah, thank you. My questions are regarding the neighbourhood grants. I haven't been able to find that. My question is that how many ethnic minorities applied for that grant and how many were successful and what amount was given to them? I don't expect the question to be answered tonight because Peter might not have that in front of him, but if that could be sent to me in a writing. And the other thing I've just noticed, I've got the mail today from, this one's from 21st of October 22, and Peter's Christmas card that's been delivered today. And this one is clearly written my name, what the letter was opened. Can you please, the officers, can you look into it, why that was open and why has it taken, was it 5 months to be delivered and the Christmas card to be delivered after.
Thank you, Councillor Dinser.
Okay, I'd like to start by wishing Councillor Dins a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'm not obviously responsible for his own mail, but we can obviously look into that. I would say on the Christmas card, it raised £10,000, £5,000 for Watford CAB and £5,000 for Sure Start, Home Start, some fantastic local charities, thanks to the kind sponsorship. On the first point about the community SIL, 16 schemes were successful in that. Right across the town, I can look at the diversity issues that he raises, but I know that it was a very good spread. People like Everett Rovers, Random Cafe, there was CCTV between Central and Vicarage Ward that's going to be funded through that. So a really positive scheme, really well received by residents and something that we're expanding this year. And I'd encourage councillors to work with their local communities of all backgrounds to make sure we can support those projects in their wards.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Questions by members of the council. I've received no questions this evening. Item 7, questions by members of the public. We haven't received any questions by members of the public. Petition. Council has received a petition with the requisite number of signatures. Shiraz Ben Bakir is with us this evening to present the petition. Shiraz, you will have up to 5 minutes to present your petition, and after this, members will have up to 15 minutes to debate. I will then ask Councillor Dighton to formally respond.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time this evening to review this petition. As you might have seen it, and I'm sure we're discussing it tonight, so I'm sure you did. Castleberry Park is, for many of us, a landmark, a bit of a safe haven for our families, for everyone, for their well-being. And like we see everything from families enjoying their days there, and we antisocial behavior as well. But as long as everyone is safe, it's fine. As many of you know, last year in November, I was a victim of an assault in Castleberry Park. It was barely 6:30. I was just walking up this path from the Cha Cafe. You might have copies of this plan. Just walking up to town, I saw a few people walking past me, and this person came out of nowhere. I couldn't say anything. It was dark, and well, we'll not dwell on it. We're not here to discuss that, but it's about what we can do to prevent it from happening. It's not the first attack that happened in Castleberry, and it won't be the last. And I'm sure even we improve, things happen, but what can we do to minimize the amount of incident that happened? And my petition is, many people have discussed the fact that it will affect the animals, it will affect nature, but my petition is not to put lights everywhere. It's literally to have them from what was the Cha Cafe to go up to town where commuters go daily. I stood there after my attack and I counted how many people and I saw 84 people, and from that 63 were females walking like me at 5 p.m. just going or coming back. And so the petition is for the lights to be towards town and to go across the park. I understand that we have some light, but they're not that strong. So it is just for safe access for everyone. And I appreciate that Watford Council give many grants and funds for town. Last year it was all about improving town, improving what can we do to improve town. I understand it's about helping businesses. Like my company works with Watford Town in signage related and about improving the town. But what can we do to make it better? So it's, as I said, it wasn't the first time. It won't be the last. I think the facts speak for themselves. I can plead and I can say, oh, poor me, but I worry about my children. I worry about your children, your sister, your brother, your like dad. 2 days after my attack, a boy who was 15 was attacked in the same route. And I know that because I spoke to the Veolia people who helped me on that evening, because I went back to say thank you for being there and for helping me. And because there were people there that were walking back, but they didn't stop to help. Nobody stopped to help because it was too dark. Somebody went back when they heard me crying and they said, I saw you, but it was too dark. I didn't know if you were a homeless person or if you were. So just light there will change so much. Will change so much. And yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know if I passed myself in 5 minutes. Yeah. So as I said, I don't believe that light will affect the nature or like the animal. Now it's all about like sustainable energy, new energy. I don't know enough about what the planning is to get lights in there, but as I said, we are just talking about the traffic roads for everyone, basically.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shiraz, for your the information you've given us, and obviously now I invite you to stay to listen to the discussions. But thank you so much for your time, and actually the fact that you've taken time to care about other people as well as yourself, I think is all kudos to you. So thank you. Okay, so can I now move to member discussion, which is for a maximum of 15 minutes. Please, any member that wishes to speak, please raise your hands. Oh.
You got your hand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7.
Jack, sorry, are you speaking?
9, 10.
Can you raise your hand?
I'll give way if other people really run out of time.
So they've got about a minute each.
Quite a minute each. Okay, can I ask that members can speak for 1 minute? So it's a very limited time, but make your points clear and concise. I thank you. So I'd like to ask Mayor Taylor.
Yeah, thank you. I will stick to my minute. But first of all, thank you, Shiraz, for coming this evening. It is, as Amanda said, a really brave thing. And all credit to you for, obviously, you had a terrible experience, but responding to that by raising this with us. So I want to say, I noted down what you said there about the Veolia staff, their response. I will, speak to Veolia about that and to thank those people who did respond. But also, you said you want to see what we can do to prevent and minimise these events. I know that Watford Council works really closely with the police, so we'll be looking at the lighting. I know ward councillors, we were discussing that earlier this evening, and the CCTV. As I mentioned earlier, we do have 300 cameras across the town. I think we have 9 in Canterbury Park itself. The experience that happened to was awful. We have 2.7 million people that visit Canterbury Park every year, and thankfully these incidents are really rare, but we want to make them even more rare. So I'm keen to work with you, work with the police and ward councillors to see what more we can do to make sure that these incidents are as rare as can possibly be.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Can I have Councillor Tremaine?
Oh, sorry, I was expecting it quite that quickly. Thank you very much, Chair. Well, firstly, obviously, as everyone else will, I'm sure, I'd like to echo the thanks for you coming to do it and the courage that you're showing by coming and talking about what the situation and issue was, and trying to come up with a resolution or requesting help to be able to do so. It's not an easy thing to do, and so yeah, thank you for that. I think your proposal is a good one. Personally, I think that more lights and CCTV cameras on that commuting route. It's a really, really popular commuting route, isn't it? From the cafe or the entrance into the park from the cafe up to the top of the park. There is antisocial behaviour that takes place in the park. I acknowledge absolutely it's a massive park. These incidents are not necessarily frequent, but during the pandemic period, during daylight hours, there's quite a lot of antisocial behaviour that was going on in the park as well. So hopefully we can do something about it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tremaine. Can I'm sharing it around. I'm sharing the love tonight. Councillor Dinser.
Yeah, again, thank you very much for coming forward. And I fully agree with your concerns and your petition. My daughter is at Union and she gets a train from the Met station. And in the summer, she would come through the park. And I've said to her not to come through the park in the winter, in the dark days. And it's a very popular route for people who live in Nescott Wood and Canterbury Estate. There are two routes here that highlighted that connects Canterbury Estate and Nescott Wood. It's very important that parking. I also appreciate the concern you have mentioned about the wildlife as well, which it will have an effect on. But the lights can be controlled. They can be turned off at, say, about 1 or 2 o'clock, because then that's when the train services stop running as well. But I fully agree with your petition, and I hope we can do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to? Yeah, please now.
Thank you. It's really brave to see a woman coming here and talking to us, especially from a female point of view. Again, I kind of reiterate what everybody's been saying. I'm in complete agreement. I don't walk through the park because of the lighting. To me, it's unsafe, and I tell my daughters not to walk that way as well. So I can't say how much the lighting would improve that, and it would be a possibility then for more people to use it and for more people to come across it. So for that reason, I'll definitely support you. Thank you.
Can I have Councillor Kloss, please?
Yes, thank you. I'll just add my words and thanks for bringing the issues to our attention and for the debate this evening. I think my point of view, the path from the Char through to Parkside Drive, I think is the one that's most regularly used by commuters, and it's actually lit pretty well today, I think. I was pleased to hear Mayor Taylor say that that's going to be reviewed and with the possibility of adding additional perhaps CCTV if it's warranted. I think in general, I'm not in favour of putting lots of lights everywhere. I think that route is an established route, and we should make sure that's as protected as it can be. But I wouldn't want to see us putting many lights across Gasbury Park and perhaps other parks in Watford as well. So, my point of view, I think the ward councillors, Peter Jeffrey and myself, we met with the police recently, and they said they were.
Thank you, Councillor Kloss.
Okay.
I really do apologise.
No, that's fine.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. And can I also add my, I want to thank Ms Bennett-Beer again for having the courage to attend tonight in person, speaking up importantly on behalf of other potential victims. And as she said, and as obviously she's quoted in here in the paper, in the report, everyone was saying that poor woman, but nobody was saying what can we do to change this. And as you again said, you don't want people to be commenting, poor me, what had happened. I want them to use their keyboards to call for change and sign the petition instead. And sadly, of course, it reminds us of Beth Rosewall, who, of course, brought a petition in January 21 to this council just over 2 years ago, after she had sadly been attacked in Oxley Park. And she'd also called for CCTV in the surrounding area around Oxley Park. She wanted to raise support to increase the safety of families and deter the minority. She argued then that safety measures in and around Oxley Park were inadequate, as today Ms Bennett-Beer is arguing about Canterbury Park. Now, I know that we see you set up a committee and things like that then, but I'd hope that after tonight, Miss Bennett Beer will not just be
Thank you,
promised.
councillor Bell.
Okay. Yep, made the point.
I'm being strict.
Yep.
Councillor Favour.
All right. Thank you. I wouldn't take time. I will just echo what my colleagues have said. I thank you so much for the courage to come tonight. Just like Councillor Bell said, I'm really saddened that another woman is coming to address us on the same issue. I heard the Mayor when he said these incidences are rare, but one more is too much. And I really don't want that one more. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you, Favour. Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Chairman. And can I just quickly offer my sympathy to the Speaker for her injuries during the attack, and there have been other attacks more recently, not many, but one or two. I don't want to duplicate everything that Peter has said before he was cut off, but just to reinforce what he said, from my point of view, the path that crosses from Shepherd Road to Parkside Drive is the most important one. That has good lighting at the moment. There are one or two things that need to be done to make it better, and there are gaps on CCTV coverage. I mean, significant gaps that ought to be addressed. But I agree with Peter that actually the long routes through the park are paralleled by proper roads, and that being the case, I don't think we should be spending money which we don't have on adding lighting. And there's a question of balance. And somebody else mentioned about the wildlife. I mean, really, we shouldn't be turning a semi-wild park into an urban park. Thank you.
Councillor Jeffrey. Councillor Tim Williams.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you very much for coming along this evening. Yes. Now, I'm the portfolio holder for Parks and Open Spaces. I thought I'd highlight what currently is established in Castlemaine Park in regards to CCTV and lighting. Castlemaine Park has 9 CCTV cameras covering the park, 3 at Shepherd's Road entrance and near the Char Cafe, 3 at the bandstand covering the path across the park, 1 at Rickmansworth Road entrance and 2 at the hub by the paddling pools. I have taken on board the point raised by the Park Ward councillors. There may be a little gap towards the Parkside Drive entrance. That's a fair point. There are 18 street lights in the park providing lighting on the path from Shepherd's Road to Parkside Drive, which I feel is a key access across the park there. I pick up Peter Jeffrey's point of view. There are parallel roads running down Parkside Drive and Castlemaine Park avenues. These are lighted street lights. They do have cars regularly going down there. There are sort of residential addresses there, and that could be a way that people should be directed here. I know
Thank you, Councillor Williams. And being very strict. Councillor Bell, please will you turn off your mic? Thank you. And if I could now ask Councillor Agger-Dykton to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Having liaised with the Council's community safety team and the police, I can confirm Castleberry Park is not at this time a crime or antisocial behaviour hotspot or high-risk area for crime. However, the high footfall around the entrance and the exit of the park means this location are on standing police patrol plan, which verses its resources to meet seasonal demands. Watford's Community Safety Partnership involves a number of key agencies, including the Council and the police. The partnership for strategic objectives includes tackling violence against women and girls, which we are very passionate about it. WACS will remain an objective overseen and monitored by the partnership throughout the 2024-2025 plan. As a council, we are now an accredited white ribbon organisation as part of international initiative to prevent the violence against women and girls. As part of our commitment, we are raising awareness across the borough and working with community partners to tackle violence against women and girls and to identify Watford as a safe place to all. Initiatives to support this area are Ask Angela, Safe Zone Watford, White Ribbon, hashtag Enough Campaign, Watford Women's Centre and Sunflowers Helpline. I hope that this provides reassurance to you all as to what we do to keep our community safe. I fully understand this is a very sensitive issue, and I thank Shiraz for raising this and attending this evening. I hope what have been shared this evening in terms of the work the council and police are doing is enough to reassurance that we're looking after our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Aga. Okay, so I would like to thank Shiraz for coming to council and presenting the petition. You will receive a written response and it will be sent to you. Hopefully it will get to you before the Christmas cards. It will also be published on the council's website, but I really would like to thank your bravery of coming and addressing this issue tonight. Thank you. Okay, so agenda item number 9, urgent business. There is no urgent business for the council. Item 10, council pay policy statement 2023. A report has been received from the interim executive head of human resources, which starts on page 15 of the agenda pack. May I now call on Councillor Watkin to move the recommendation. Councillor Watkin, you have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you very much. This is not clever. Sorry, it's here. I can't. How do I get to the other one? I don't want that. Would you excuse me, Chairman? I do apologise. I had it open just as I lifted up my thing, it disappeared. Where's it gone to? How do I? What? Maybe open it. Is it saved? Yes. Right, here we go. Sorry about that. Come again, as soon as I stood up. Who'd have technology? This. Oh, come on. Yeah. We will get there. I'm going to have to do this blind. I do apologise. I want to present today's pay policy, and I really am very sorry that technology has beaten me. Ironically, I am the county councillor, or the borough councillor responsible for ICT, and I have a very well presented speech. So I'll try and do this off the cuff. Can I just say that I'm presenting this pay policy, which I think absolutely represents the values of this council. It's important. We are required every year to produce a pay policy, and it's actually aimed at the chief executive panel, the executive group within the council, which is basically from associate directors up. And what we have to do is show that our pay policy is absolutely reasonable and fair compared with their policy, their pay levels compared to the ordinary members of staff. And I can tell you that, for example, the average pay of our members of staff is their pay, the chief executive's pay, is 3.6 times higher than our average. Now, that is way, way better than what is normally required of councillors. So the pay band is very narrow. And if you take the bottom layer in our pay policy, which is at level 4, which is way above the national minimum wage, that is only, I think it's 10 times higher. And I may be wrong on that figure, as I'm trying to do this from memory. I do apologise. All I can say is this policy is designed to attract high-quality people into the council, which it clearly does for the quality of our staff. I commend it to the council, and I apologise, I can't give you the speech I was supposed to do, but it's a lot quicker than the one I would have prepared. Right, thank you very much.
Well done, Councillor Watkin. There is a method in my madness. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Pattinson.
I will second the proposal and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Do any members wish to speak? You have up to 5 minutes. Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So I'm just waiting for Councillor Watkin. Thank you, Chair. So it's now right, and obviously it's now a statutory duty that the council, along with all other councils, have to publish annually their pay policy. We had the publication of the county council's equivalent at the end of February. And it's also good that Watford residents can see the remuneration, in particular of chief officers of the council, and the fact that all other payments, performance-related pay, bonus pay, and redundancy and retirement payments, and all the rules are transparent. And I note that the ratio of the salary of the chief executive compared to the median average salary in the council is published, and I note it's 1 to 3 to 6. And also, the council's lowest to highest paid employee ratio is 1:5 to 7, which obviously, you know, we certainly support and compared to some other councils. I note the lowest pay in use by the council is within band 4, paying £12.93 per hour, and not including London waiting, so that's good. We are pleased to note this is above the, in quotes, real living wage of £10.90 an hour. We should always be vigilant on the level of earnings for our staff and make sure they are always kept above the real living wage in Watford. Even more important at this time of a tough cost of living crisis, when we are expecting many of our staff to do their utmost to help many of our vulnerable residents over a difficult time. It's also interesting to note that the council now employs 249 officers, and that the paragraph on equalities, understanding the recent report to the Functions Committee on the work that still needs to be done to make sure all of the town's diverse minorities are properly represented on the council's workforce. But overall, obviously, we do support the pay policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Anyone else was there? Councillor Pattinson, can I, do you wish to speak?
No, thank you. I have nothing else to add.
Councillor Watkin, you have 3 minutes to sum up.
No, I don't.
Please, can you
I think Councillor Bell has actually captured the quality of what we're saying. I don't think there's too much I would disagree with what he's just said. And thank you for your support, members. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Does the council agree the recommendation? All those in favour, please show. Please raise your hands quite high so we can see. Thank you. The recommendation is carried. Many thanks. Item 11, motions. The council has received 5 motions. The first motion has been proposed by Councillor Estifed and seconded by Councillor Khan, as printed in the agenda. I would remind all councillors that the mover of the motion has up to 7 minutes with a right to reply of up to 3 minutes. Everyone else speaking has up to 5 minutes and can speak only once. Councillor Favour, you have up to 7 minutes to move the motion.
Thank you, Chair. In the past few years, vaping among adolescents has risen sharply, both nationally and internationally. Action on Smoking Health ASH data shows that 8.6% of 11 to 18 years old in England vaped in 2022, compared with 4% in 2021. The charity also reported that among those who tried vaping, 40.1% have never smoked before. Though vaping has been promoted as safer than smoking, we have no evidence yet on the impact on young minds. There's growing evidence that e-cigarettes can help people manage their nicotine cravings, but this isn't without risk. While research has shown vaping poses a small fraction of risk of smoking, it is deeply worrying that more and more children who have never smoked are starting to vape. The King's College study commissioned by Office of Health Improvement Disparity at the Department of Health said it was clear that vaping is less harmful than cigarettes in the short run. However, it is said current research is not robust enough to make clear conclusions about how harmful vaping is in the longer term. A survey carried out by Action on Smoking and Health found that the proportion of 11 to 17 years currently vaping had jumped up significantly. The main source for both cigarettes and e-cigarettes is from the shops. 51.9% of 11 to 17-year-olds get their cigarette from shops, and 46.5% get their e-cigarette from shops, despite it being illegal to sell vapes to under 18s. Giving evidence to the Common Health and Social Care Committee early this month, England's Chief Medical Officer, Professor Whitty, informed MPs that there's no doubt companies are designing vapes to appeal to children and branded their actions as appalling. He called for a major clampdown on firms that get our children hooked on colorful, favored e-cigarettes. As a CAMS service manager and a parent and a foster mom, I'm really concerned that vaping products are being marketed to young people in Watford, thereby encouraging them in making this lifestyle choice without information on the likely impact. I have personally witnessed this as some of the children under my care has been approached to vape. I'm also aware that schools in Watford are seizing products during school hours. This is really worrying, given the new evidence that suggests that adolescents' brains continues to develop until 25. The 2021 census clearly shows that Watford is a relatively young town. This is particularly the case as when you see the number of 0 to 19 age range. Similarly, the 30 to 49 cohort age range is significantly higher for the Watford population than nationally. This means that we are a town that is popular with families. We need to do all we can to prevent children and young people who have never smoked to take up vaping. Please support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Favour. I now ask Councillor Khan to second the motion. You have up to 5 minutes. Do any members wish to move any amendments to this motion? Can they indicate by raising their hands?
Thank you, Chairman. I believe so that all the proposed what we want to make amendments are on the table. Everyone can read it. As a community portfolio holder, which I mentioned before, it's really important that we care and we invest and look after our residents, including the youngest from the older population. Therefore, we put in the amendment to call to respond that by the action of Smoking Health, who catered the evidence that the smoking toolkit study shows that the vape also helping to reduce and quit the smoking. That is the amendment where we wanted to implement it, and also call the council that action of Smoking Health works with school, parent, youth services, which provide education materials, posters and guidance to support the young people to make informed choices. They help in relation to smoking and vaping, but also to make sure that all vaping products to be kept out of sign behind the counter. We would calling for the government to tax disposal vapes, which are the cheapest one and the most popular one around the children, and they not environmental friendly. I hope you all support my amendments, our amendments, and we join together on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have seconded by the amendment by councillor Pattinson?
Thank you, Chair. I reserve my right to speak.
Can I ask if councillor Esefed accepts the amendment?
I do accept the amendment.
That's good. Any councillors wish to sum up? Does anybody wish to speak on this amendment? Councillor Pattinson, do you wish to sum up?
No.
No. Reply.
No, she's
Thank you, Chair. All I was going to say is that I fully support the amendment put forward by Councillor Dighton, and that vaping is a deterrent for smoking, but also we must ensure that the regulations are tight enough to protect children within our borough. That's all I need to say. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Ezavidi, for bringing this to Council today.
Thank you. Do any members wish to speak on this motion and the amendment? Yeah.
Somebody got their hands up?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So just one small thing to pick up in terms of the amendment. I do agree with the motion. I agree with the amendment, but in terms of keeping the vaping products out of sight behind the counter, we actually have vaping shops in Watford. That's all they do. So it is going to be above the counter in those respects. So just sort of pointing out that there will have to maybe be tighter regulations on those, but keeping their products behind the counter out of sight when it's a vaping shop, I think might be slightly challenging. So I just wanted to raise that.
Okay, so Councillor Khan, do you now wish to speak?
Yes, Madam Chair, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so. I think this issue is actually on the rise, and in particular, this motion is focusing on child vaping and restricting that. We understand, vaping is used as a tool to help mitigate the impact of smoking and cigarettes, which are much worse. But what research has shown is that children as young as 10 and 11 are now never smoked in their lives, are using vaping and taking up vaping due to the way that they marketed, the flavours, the different flavours that are on offer, the cartoons that are linked to it. So they are aimed at children, and children are picking it up. So I think it is our responsibility as a council to work with other councils, the County Council on Trading Standards, and also to voice this concern to the government. It is, part of my other role in life is, when I look at young people and the impact of what's going in and some of these unregulated shops. Some of it is quite dangerous. They put cannabis oils in there. They put all sorts of oils and flavours in there which have an impact. I know one person who took 3 or 4 puffs and completely collapsed as a consequence. Young man as a consequence of trying these things out. So they are dangerous. They need to be regulated, especially for children. And that's why I ask everyone to support this particular motion. It's an important issue. It's an issue that's developing. And I think this council needs to be ahead of that curve in trying to regulate this particular area before it becomes too late, especially young within Watford. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor Favour, do you wish to sum up?
Thank you. I thank everyone that has spoken on this motion. The issue with vaping is not just what we're discussing today is about the impact on children. It's not the right of adults to access vaping, because vaping, I work in NHS, vaping is promoted as a safer alternative to smoking. So we understand that. But what I'm asking us to do today is to look at the impact that young people are vaping in our community. And Watford being a young town and a family town, we should be very interested in the future of our young people. I work in council and I know that vaping is almost becoming a gateway for young people to either drugs. We can do a lot to prevent that from becoming a pandemic in Watford. So as much as I understand that there are vaping shops in Watford, the problem is that there's a loophole in regulation that needs to be tightened, especially when it comes to vaping. As a social worker, I'm committed to safeguarding children and young people, and I want you to support me to do so. Thank you.
Okay, so can I ask the council to vote on the motion as amended? Those in favour, please raise your hands. That's now carried. Many thanks. The second motion this evening has been proposed by Councillor Tremaine and seconded by Councillor Bell. I would like to remind all councillors that the move of the original motion has up to 7 minutes with a right of reply of up to 3 minutes. Everyone else speaking has up to 5 minutes. I now invite Councillor Tremaine to move the motion. You have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. Hopefully I shan't take 7 minutes to do so. What is Passive House? I'm sure everybody in this room knows what Passive House is, but for the benefit of the online viewers, it's a standard for ultra-low energy buildings, which need minimal fuel for heating and cooling, and can deliver up to 70% cheaper energy bills. So Watford Council is in the fortunate position to be able to drive forward the agenda on housing. It has widely recognised the importance of climate change and sustainability. And we know that the cost of living crisis is affecting everybody, and a key component of that is the increase in energy prices that has taken place. They never seem to go down as quickly as they go up, do they, with market changes? But there we are. It also has a partnership to deliver housing and a responsibility to do so. Passive House standards appear to provide an opportunity to act in order to address the environmental issues and contribution to climate change and the energy prices affecting Watford residents. There are several organisations around the country that are already on board with this. The Northern Housing Consortium is conducting a retrofit revolution. Goldsmith Street in London has run a REBA award for this activity, where all 93 council homes are built to Passive House standards. Camden Council has an award-winning Agar Grove development. Tower Hamlets, Lambeth, Hereford, Bridgend, London Borough of Ealing, Leeds and Penge have all got on board. To qualify, a building must achieve a required set of standards, and they can be new build or retrofitted. There is a marginal additional cost to building and meeting Passive House standards, and times are tight. But over the course of the lifetime of the building, it stands to regain its value many times over. And other local authorities are doing it, so obviously I think we should be as well. This motion resolves to, or amended, as will be amended, it resolves to continue and initiate further conversations for retrofitting opportunities, and also to look at new build and explore whether Passive House is an appropriate development methodology, which I'm hoping means that all members will be able to support the motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Bell, I invite you now to second. You have up to 5 minutes.
I rise to support the motion and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Do any members wish to move any amendments to this motion? If so, can you please indicate by raising your hand? Councillor Saffring, you have up to 5 minutes to speak on the amendment.
Thanks. I'll try not to take 5 minutes. So just to move the amendment that's in front of members today, and to say that Watford's local plan has very high environmental standards, the highest that the government's inspector would approve as viable, which we are proud to implement. It also makes a clear commitment that the council will be even more ambitious with energy performance standards as the technologies improve, become more accessible and affordable, and therefore the impact on development viability is reduced. This is an important point in this context, as Passive House standards are currently expensive to implement and can compromise the affordability of new homes for people on all but the highest incomes. This year we have delivered more affordable homes since monitoring of this began, yet still not as many as we would like. In a planning context, it is no good if adherence to these standards means developers presenting us with applications of 0% affordable housing, citing the cost of building as a reason it would not be viable to do so. We all know viability assessments already pose an obstacle to affordability, and we have made this point in our response to the government's ongoing consultation on national planning policy. Passive house developments are, of course, very welcome in Watford. Our local plan presents no obstacle to them, and we welcome conversations with developers wishing to explore this option. That being said, alongside the climate crisis and cost of living crisis, we also have a housing crisis, and we cannot and will not allow the ideal to be the enemy of the good on the delivery of affordable, energy-efficient homes. Thank you.
Can I now invite Councillor Ian Stotesbury to second the amendment? You may reserve your right to speak.
I think Councillor Tremain's already hinted that it might be accepted, so I'll just speak now, Chair, if that's okay. I just wanted to thank Glenn for moving that amendment, and just wanted to add really thanks to Watford Community Housing and to celebrate the partnership that we have there with that housing provider, because we are already reviewing the EPC ratings of properties. We've already done that, and we are already looking at how we can retrofit those properties. And that part of the amendment is to really highlight that work. And as Councillor Saffery said, we'll continue that work of reviewing technologies that are available for housing developers to bring forward even more energy efficient homes. We are in a bind here where both we need to see more social and affordable housing, but also see much more energy efficient homes. I think the ultimate crux to this, and something we'll come to at the environmental strategy motion, I'm sure, is that government really does need to step up in a really big way. They need to be the ones that are stepping in to solve the viability assessment problem here, and supporting the ability to do both, develop as many affordable houses as the town needs, but also develop really high energy efficiency standards too. So I think that's where we should take this from now, both continue our review and continue pushing hard, but also call on government to finally step up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stotesbury. Can I now ask Councillor Tremain, do you accept the amendment?
Yes, I think we will accept the amendment. I think there was we had some conversation around the amendment to the penultimate paragraph, and that has it been done for this one that's on the table? Okay, in that case, yeah, we accept the amendment. Thank you.
Can I ask if any councillors wish to speak now on the substantive motion? Councillor Pattinson and then Councillor Devonish and Councillor Khan. Councillor Pattinson.
Thank you, Chair. I only have a very, very quick thing to say. There's around 40,000 plus houses in Watford. Over 50% of them have an EPC rating of D. Retrofitting to make them more energy efficient is, of course, what we'd like to achieve. There are changes that are needed to made to regulation in order to help that, but there's no silver bullet here. The silver bullet is funding, and we must all shout at the government to deliver more funding in order for us to deliver decarbonisation projects to our social housing stock. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pattinson. Councillor Devonish.
And overall, I think it's a great idea. It's a good ideal to work towards. And as a Watford resident who lives in a very old house in the 1800s, I had an assessment done in December, so just a few months ago, and the bill would come in just to do the basics because I can't have the usual cavity wall, etc. And the other things that would need to be done, that's coming in at about £25,000. So you might say it's a marginal increase. For someone like myself, that's a lot of money to find. So it's a lovely ideal, but there would definitely need to be funding behind such things where residents will find themselves responsible for retrofitting their own homes, because I'm not sitting on 25,000. If anyone wants to pay, that would be wonderful, but I'm not in a position to do that at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'd just like to give a small case study of Norwich Council, which is Labour-led. So in Labour-led Norwich Council in Goldsmith Street, 93 social houses were built. Not one, not two, but 93 social houses at a cost of £14.7 million. 1,875 metres squared. So you had ambition you had social housing and a council that was determined to deal with the climate change and bring financial benefit for residents and showed some leadership. And they built 93 social housing, which were passive housing, carbon zero. So that's the key ingredient, what this motion is talking about, that you can find excuses, but you need a leadership. You've got to tackle climate change, which in the long run will bring benefits to residents. In the long run will bring financial benefit for residents and actually will change and improve the climate in the town. That includes retrofitting, that includes new building. The council is working with other social landlords here, like Watford Community Housing, to build those things, and that's what it needs. It needs that leadership. So that's my point, short point, but a case example. Thank you.
Councillor Bell, do you wish to speak now?
Yes, thank you. And yeah, I rise to second the motion, and it was interesting to hear lots of different points, and clearly Councillor Devonish and also Councillor Pattinson. Yeah, no silver bullet, but we need to be able to have it as an option. And it's good that Councillor Khan mentioned, of course, the award-winning project in Norwich. And it's right that we do all we can to deliver housing that is cleaner and greener, and not only at this time, but in the future. Energy efficient homes are vital for the future. And as Councillor Tremaine has listed, there are many varying councils across, not just in London, but Norwich and on different makeup of councils. So it's something that it's good that we at least should have an option. We're not saying it's going to be appropriate every time in all housing applications, but at least it's there as an option. So as I say, I rise to second this and hope everybody will support it. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Tremaine, do you wish to sum up?
Yeah, please, if I may, just briefly, thank you. So just to try and address some of the issues that have been raised, viability assessments and developers. Yeah, I mean, crazy, isn't it? But it's the world we have to operate in. Unfortunately, there are those that say that viability assessments aren't worth the paper that they're written on, but nevertheless, we're compelled to deal with them and respond to them. So I acknowledge that point. In terms of it being expensive, yeah, individually, it certainly can be for new developments. That figure is overall for a new development increase in cost in order to be able to build it in such a way. And as been mentioned, social housing developments have been, a focus of this approach. I recognise that there's a slight dissociation, of course, of the council control with the housing trust in terms of being able to control that kind of stuff. But I'll come back to that in just a moment. In terms of, we certainly wouldn't want to allow the ideal to be the enemy of the good. Completely recognise this needs to be pragmatic. It needs to be practical. It isn't a compulsion. It's an aspiration. In Councillor Devonish, if I had 25 grand spare, I'm sure that I would help out. But I recognise the problem that you're talking about. Of course, older properties, listed properties, they weren't built in such a way to be able to deal with this kind of thing. And again, that's why I suspect, this isn't intending to do compulsion. This is about, exploration of what is possible. And I think that's probably it. Yeah, there's not a compulsion contained within the motion. It is supposed to be aspirational, designed to be, progressive and forward-looking, and to encourage the improvement in the housing stock over time. But yeah, there we go. That's it. Thank you.
Right. Okay, so now I ask my colleagues to vote on the substantive motion as amended. Those in favour, please raise your hands. Okay, that's now carried. Okay. The third motion has been proposed by Councillor Stotesbury and seconded by Mayor Taylor. I'm not going to remind you all, it's 7 minutes for Councillor Stotesbury and 5 minutes for everyone else. So, Councillor Stotesbury, would you like?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I won't need your 7 minutes, but thanks for the kind offer. For those of you who came to Cabinet or tuned into Cabinet, which is always a great watch, some of the speech will be echoing some of what I said then. But this motion is fundamentally calling on government to do more to assist local authorities and indeed assist residents and businesses with meeting the climate change challenge that faces not just Watford, not just England, not just the UK, but the whole world. So let me just set some context, if I may. In 2026, the UK recently played host to COP26, where world leaders yet again reiterated their commitment to try and achieve a limit to global warming. At COP26, we set the ambition to limit to 2 degrees and ideally at 1.5. There's already been a slip in the ideal target that we're now recognising is pragmatically possible. Currently, global rise is about 1.1 degrees Celsius, so we're already running out of runway on this issue. The UK government is committed to net zero by 2050 and a 78% reduction by 2035. This is based on pre-industrial levels. But unfortunately, the response by government has been completely awful, lacklustre, pick whichever adjective you want to insert here. There really is just no movement. On the contrary, I'm really proud that the Council has adopted its environmental strategy and worked hard over the last year consulting with businesses, consulting with residents, and again, thank you to members as well who are on the task group to help us with the development of that strategy. And we are trying to be ambitious and deliver for the town. So the strategy that we've adopted is in 2 overarching themes. People power, where we try and help businesses and residents do their part to achieve net zero and to protect local nature. But also we want to educate people on what options are available to them. And then the primary focus of the strategy in terms of the document and the targets is how does the council get itself to be truly carbon neutral by 2030. So we're aiming to be net carbon equivalent by 2030, reduce our waste to near zero by 2030, manage our green spaces in a great way for nature. So 30% of our green spaces, 30% of our green spaces to be managed to support nature by 2030, and others. Now, unfortunately, we're trying to be bold. Businesses are trying to be bold, residents are trying to be bold, but where is the support from government? What we really need is an absolutely huge revolution of funding and investment and indeed education led by government to make this happen. We've just been speaking about the passive house issue and how we recognise that retrofitting is critical to support Watford residents. Indeed, so many of our properties are built in the 1930s. They were not built for high energy efficiency standards. They need really quite expensive retrofitting to make that happen. And in the meantime, in the cost of living crisis, gas prices being as high as they are, it's residents are having to pay that burden. From a foreign policy perspective, it's terrible. We're having to import gas rather than invest in our own property and reduce bills for our residents as well. There's so many angles that you look at this and you think actually investment in tackling climate change and improving nature actually is a direct benefit for our residents. We had a sustainability forum just last night, and I think it really does highlight why this motion is so important and why recalling for government to do more on this is so important, because climate change deniers came to that meeting and gave myself and members of that meeting a bit of a hard time, and that's a tragedy. We're in 2023. This is the critical issue facing humanity on a global level. If we don't do something about it, we have an existential doom heading our way. There's no way around that. Where is the impassioned response? We can use this as a catalyst to really re-energise our industry, re-energise the relationship between the public and government, and really invest in a cleaner, greener, healthier future for everyone. So I'd urge you to support this motion and call on government to finally do more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stotesbury. I now invite Mayor Taylor to second. You have up to 5 minutes.
I'll second and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any amendments to this motion? No? Good. Does anyone else wish to speak on this motion? Oh. Nigel. Right. May I invite members? They can speak to up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. And I broadly welcome this motion. And as I said at the Cabinet on Monday, Although Watford is one of the smallest district councils in the country, and what we can do largely depends in large part on working closely with the county council and our other partners, we do need, as the recommendations calls for, more funding from the government to enable Watford to get to a zero carbon town by 2030. Clearly, it's going to be very difficult. And the second recommendation is largely repeating the first, and obviously we support it. Also, as I stated at the Cabinet on this, I'm sure residents would like to see and know the practical policies the Council is going to introduce to make the air cleaner and less polluted for our population. While we welcome the initiative on tree planting, as other districts and the county are doing, and the electric vehicle charging programme, and the green spaces strategy, although that's going to be harder to convince residents in the sight of that 24-storey tower blocks, and others I know in Croxley View in Hollywood who are concerned they may in the near future lose their pleasant green open spaces to look out on concrete blocks. So while we all want safer, cleaner transport, and I'm straight into the next motion I know on buses, but when it comes to monitoring the air quality, which is surely the key thing here, are you going, Councillor Stotsbury, to increase the sites in the town that measure the air quality? But, you know, maybe you can give us an answer on that. I know there's at least 2 or 3 sites, obviously Bushy Arches, Vicarage Road, and I think by the Hornets, and there may be other areas I don't know of, but that's one of the, you know, St Albans Road, they're one of the key things about measuring and what you can do on that, and obviously having to work with the county and other organisations and partners. But I say overall, you know, I certainly and we support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bill. Councillor Tremaine. Yep.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I too agree with the sentiments of this motion. However, bullet point 2 in council notes regarding the Liberal Democrat policies in government, I thought rather over-egged it a little bit. It probably doesn't surprise you to hear that I have something to say about that. So I will. I'll try not to fill 5 minutes. It's undoubtedly true that the Liberal Democrats entered the coalition government with good intentions regarding climate change and sustainability. And I'm sure that we all recognise that the Conservatives had spent several years under David Cameron using pro-environmental policy stances as a tool for detoxifying the Tory party brand. However, as Carter and Clements note in their University of York paper, the greenest government ever to cut the green crap, and I apologise, I am quoting the title of the paper, there's a couple of points that I'd like to say. So that is, on entering the government in 2010, Cameron could have used the coalition to further progress on environmental issues and resist backbench pressure, but he didn't. The climate change and energy policy commitments largely echoed those of the outgoing Labour government. On nuclear power, the Liberal Democrats did drop their outright opposition to the construction of new reactors. However, they did secure a commitment that new reactors would receive no public subsidy. Now, we can argue whether that's a good thing or a bad thing on another occasion, I suppose, but you know, that's a success. On the fourth carbon budget, committed to those targets set by Labour, so obviously we recognise that and acknowledge that. But unfortunately, your coalition partners tempered it with a review in 2014 that negated it. On the Green Investment Bank, it wasn't allowed to borrow money until 2015, and then only if debt was falling, which of course it wasn't. The Green Deal on energy efficiency was a great idea, but a really unattractive rate of interest. So in 8 months after the initiation of it, only 4 people had taken up the offer to use it. But perhaps the longest lasting legacy would be around the third runway at Heathrow. And, you know, that third runway at Heathrow is still not there. So, you know, that's something to be pleased about, certainly. Although it is disappointing to note that in December 2020, the UK Supreme Court lifted the ban on a third runway. So we may, you know, see one in the future. A few other points briefly. The Call of the Quangos disbanded the Sustainable Development Commission and the Royal Commission for Environmental Pollution. There were significant cuts to the Environment Agency and Natural England. They tried to privatise 15% of the National Forestry estate, which they did have to abandon, admittedly. So there we go. There's the HS2 rebellion, the crazy DEFRA Badger cull, which was a complete disaster, and then tax breaks to encourage shale gas development. And by 2015, the Prime Minister had not yet delivered a keynote speech on the environment or climate change. So that's back to our getting rid of all the green crap. So it is difficult. And of course, you know, I'm going to support this motion. I think the intention of the motion is good, but I just wanted to set the record straight. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, well done.
Can I invite Mayor Taylor to second?
Thank you very much. I will try to be brief, but just a few things. So, as Councillor Stokesbury mentioned, we thought it was appropriate to bring this to full council following Cabinet on Monday, where we approved the council's environment strategy and our delivery plan. And we've just heard about things at a national level from Councillor Tremaine. I'm going to, for I think the first time since I became mayor, say that's something the government has done which I'm pleased about, and that is they've recently created the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero. It's good that they've actually now got that department up and running, but of course, as Councillor Stokesbury rightly said, we need to see the funding flow from that. Earlier, Councillor Khan talked about leadership. I'm actually really proud of the leadership that this Liberal Democrat administration has provided on this. The motion talks about the practical action, which Councillor Bell asked about what we're doing. So we're planting 20,000 trees, we're cleaning up the River Colne, we're creating a green loop for cyclists, we're increasing secure cycle parking. We're the first district council anywhere in the UK to have a bike share scheme. We're the first council of any type in the whole country to have electric bikes as part of that fleet, something that Labour didn't vote for. We're creating a cycle hub. We'll be creating a car club. Of course, we'll have a lot of environmentally friendly vehicles as part of that. The reason that we're meeting in this building this evening is because we're decarbonising the town hall, putting solar panels on top of there, reducing our bills by £300,000 a year as well. The other thing that was mentioned, I believe, by Councillor Bell rather glibly, was in relation to development and losing green space due to development. He knows, obviously, that we've campaigned hard against the government targets, but one of the other papers we looked at Cabinet on Monday showed that 95% of all new buildings in Watford were built on developed land. We've made a real priority about protecting our green spaces and making sure that when we do have development, it's on already developed spaces. So everywhere you look in Watford, you can see that we're doing a lot of work on this. There are 17 green flags, more than anywhere else in Hertfordshire, improving and investing in biodiversity. We've got money in the budget for the wetlands project in Canterbury Park, which has seen the return of rare butterflies in Whippendale Woods. We're also, of course, now starting a project which I know the Chair will be pleased about in Meriden Park with the wildflower meadow there as well. Unsurprisingly, Councillor Tremaine mentioned the coalition. He likes to talk about nothing more. But just one thing, because he said he wanted to set the record straight. I think the one thing that would be quite a fair measure of a success or not of a government is how much energy do you generate from renewable sources. When we had the Liberal Democrat energy minister, we tripled the amount of energy as a country we generate from sustainable sources, from renewable sources. I think that's a good record, and one that, having to work with Conservatives and make the best of it, actually the Liberal Democrats can be proud of. So the reason we brought this motion here tonight is that we want to lobby for more investment. We're clear about our ambitions for Watford, but to do that, we do need government funding. And so by passing this motion, we can show that the council, that all of us are behind what we're planning, but we need to add extra weight to our calls for funding so we can deliver on our aspirations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Councillor Stokesbury, you have 3 minutes to start.
Yeah. Thanks, Chair. Well, thanks everyone for the questions, and I'll take the questions in turn. So, Councillor Bell, you asked about transport and air quality monitoring. Yeah, very happy to meet with you and talk about that in due course. What I will say is that, again, as a borough authority, we're not responsible for travel, yet we're the ones who are really pushing on that agenda. The Sustainable Transport Strategy that you'll remember was passed last year, and I think we spoke about at Cabinet, also dubbed the Transforming Travel in Watford Strategy, was a joint piece of work between Watford Borough and Hertfordshire County Council. We were the ones really driving that agenda and making sure that it was delivered for Watford. That is going to be the most meaningful way of improving traffic and indeed improving pollutants from vehicles in our town. So we've secured strategic bus routes, we've secured strategic cycling and walking routes that the County Council have now signed off through their transport panel too. Now the job is, of course, getting them delivered. So we're continuing to work with County Council, and indeed we're continuing to help develop those plans. I was really pleased to visit the Watford Cycle Hub on the weekend and talk about those plans with cyclists who have been seeing and cycling around the town with me on that. Councillor Tremaine, thank you very much for that. It's a lovely precursor of things to come, I'm sure. But what I will say, and I believe the Mayor's already made that point, tripling renewable energy is a good thing. leaving a government completely broke is not. So let's leave that there perhaps and move on. There is only so far one can do when a junior partner in coalition. However, here in Watford, we're really proud of the work that we're doing. You can see a litany of the work that we're already investing in and already leading on this agenda for the town. I'd encourage you to come and get in the river with me one day. It's quite fun in there. Lots of my friends and colleagues have already been out there volunteering and leading on this agenda. So please, I'd encourage you to do so. Thank you very much for supporting the business of the motion. And now let's actually try and have some conciliatoriness and call on government to finally do a bit more, because ultimately, our plan is excellent. I really am proud of it. We've been working with third-party climate activists to help us with this work. But now we've got to get on and deliver it, and we need support from government to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stotesbury. If I could ask all those in favour of the substantive motion, please show your hands. Okay, so the motion is carried. So the fourth motion this evening has been proposed by Councillor Stotesbury and seconded by Councillor Feldman. Again, 7 minutes and right to reply 3 minutes. Everyone else speaking 5 minutes. Can I now invite Councillor Stotesbury to move the motion? You have up to 7 minutes.
Yeah, I will be very quick on this one. I'm confident colleagues agree. Please take a look at the motion, but as I'm sure you'll all relate with, one of the most commonly raised concerns across the town by residents is indeed the state of bus services that are put on by County Council. We've got agreement for routes, but now we need to get on with regulating and controlling the services that are delivered by the Conservative County Council. So for many destinations, buses are critical, if not the only really affordable and primary method to reach them. And yet those services are seeing very little investment indeed. I'm sure this whole council remembers that they've been attempting to cut individual routes across the town over the previous years. And that's something we have to continue to challenge, and this motion causing them to do so. What's worse is that by not investing and properly regulating these bus services, ensuring that they're regular and reliable, it's actually those who are worst off who are most disproportionately affected if they're unable to afford their own car and whatnot. But further than that, buses should be the mecca of transit for people to move long distances. This should be a well-incentivised public transport option so that you can put aside your car and take a much more energy efficient, climate efficient way of getting around our town and our county. Government has just missed an opportunity in yesterday's budget. There was nothing on this at all. Sticking plasters on healthcare, sticking plasters on cost of living, but nothing to help on bus travel or subsidy in that way. True investment could have happened in this budget, and it could have happened at relatively low cost compared to some of the initiatives that we've seen. Indeed, I'm sure colleagues across the council were surprised to see a out of the blue lift on pensions and tax limits on pensions, but nothing on this. Let's think about some slogans. So we had levelling up. That included a whole lot about buses. We had government's bus strategy, and then we had bus back better. These have all been around in the last few years, but I, a fairly nerdy guy looking at bus investments across county, haven't seen anything meaningful from government. This motion is calling on government to finally step up and invest in bus services, but also critically on County Council to do its job as the transport regulator, to regulate the services that come to our town, to work with local authorities to make sure those bus services are properly regulated and provided for. And this will not only help cut traffic in our town, improve air quality in our town, but also give our residents something affordable to get around as well. Please support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stotesbury. I now invite Councillor Feldman to second. You have up to 5 minutes and you may reserve your right to speak.
Thank you very much, Chair. You can see a stark difference in bus services when you travel just a few miles past the borders of Hertfordshire into towns like Stanmore and Edgware, towns that have a smaller population than Watford. Regular and reliable buses, up-to-date customer information, easy ticketing systems, clear pricing structures and free travel for under 16s. Whereas in Hertfordshire, with its growing population hitting 1,200,000, with bus routes and timetables regularly being slashed with minimal consultation, minimal accountability, and the companies doing it, just doing it for their shareholders and their dividends. Very similar to the rail system in Britain as well, when that got privatised. A lack of control and investment by Hertfordshire County Council and guidance from the government to bring in true bus regulation and controls has led to the services just being obliterated. The bus has now become the second or the third choice for people travelling across Hertfordshire. Meanwhile, across the border again in London, since bus deregulation in 1985, London realised that its growing population needed a reliable service and took direct control of the services, contracts and tenders, managing everything. Through this, they've seen increasing mileage, increasing demand and increasing reliability, with subsidies reduced while the service has improved, showing that long-term investment in public transport does pay off. The bus networks and standards to regulate them in Hertfordshire don't get cars off the road, and they desperately need to change. We're going to reduce traffic, reduce carbon emissions, make Watford and Hertfordshire a sustainable and green county. So I call on you to support this motion.
Thank you. Can I ask members, are there any amendments? No. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Tim Williams, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. If okay with yourselves, I think I'll do the history bit here. And yes, it is recognised to a certain level that this history, although modern, is before a good number of you are actually born. Bus services, in my opinion, were basically killed off in the 1980s as Margaret Thatcher's Conservative government completed the bus deregulation legislation. And this took away bus services from local authorities and councils and passed them over to private bus companies. So hence no longer a public service, but a commercial service. As a commercial operation, if the route is not profitable, then the private bus company cut it, amended it, or cancelled it. It's not rocket science to then work out that since the 1980s, bus usage has dramatically dropped, whilst car ownership increased. And with this car ownership increase comes the congestion, petrol consumption, air pollution, and the residential car parking issues that we all contacted on. Bus services are a solution to a good number of the issues that we are facing in our society at present and should be supported by our government and our county council. But at present, they do not see that reliable, regular and cheap bus services is the solution. A number of countries, cities, actually offer buses free of charge, as they do see it as the solution to the matters like congestion, parking, air pollution and fuel consumption. I understand Scotland is progressing ahead with bus deregulation. And likewise, Manchester, under Labour, has recently had partial success with a franchising model coming into place, I believe, this year. Herts County Council are our transport authority, and I really do not see them buying into enhanced bus services in Watford nor in Hertfordshire. There's a mentality there just to allow bus service to deteriorate further without a care to bus passengers nor the benefits of a regular and reliable bus service. The Cabinet member at Herts County Council responsible for bus services stated after the BBC revealed that Hertfordshire had the biggest drop in passenger numbers that the figures, he first of all said, were wrong. Then he blamed COVID and then he blamed driver shortages. But he failed to blame the total lack of support the Conservatives at county had given to bus services. Yeah. And an anecdote, one of the leaders of a Hertfordshire Borough District Council at a Herts leaders meeting, they do meet up every now and again, highlighted to the meeting that more support should be given to buses in Hertfordshire, being the solution to many issues that we've been discussing during this motion. But a Borough District leader received the retort from the Conservative leader of Herts County Council, "You really don't understand, but people just don't want to use buses." With a retort like that, then it's no wonder bus services in Hertfordshire fell by 56%. This mindset needs to change. A quote I read the other day about bus services in Hertfordshire. Shockingly bad service, and only desperate people with no other form of transport would use them, most of which are elderly and those living in financial difficulty. To be fair, it's these people, often marginalised residents, that we should be helping. Another bit of history. Of course, we had Garston Bus Garage based at the far end of St Albans Road, but this was sold off by Arriva and is now being developed for residential homes. We did seem to have slightly better bus services when Garston Bus Garage was there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Matt Tremaine.
Thank you, Chair. So as a user of bus services in Watford and Hertfordshire, it is, after all, one of the rare opportunities to get to actually read your newspaper. I wholly agree that services seem to be declining, can be very unreliable, and that's in addition to the cuts to services that are being made. It is frustrating for residents. An article in The Guardian from the 10th of March states that, obviously I probably read that on the bus at the time actually, local people told of having to change jobs because of intolerable commutes, social isolation, missed medical appointments because of vanishing buses, and children left to wait at bus stops in the dark. A TfL model, as you've detailed in the motion, whereby authorities can set rates and fares and remove poorer providers is urgently needed. And I thank Councillor Williams for acknowledging the work that Andy Burnham is doing in Manchester. And I can tell you all that the best way to achieve this is to vote Labour at the next general election. Because Shadow Transport Secretary Louise High has made such reforms a central pillar of overhauling bus services as part of the Labour manifesto if returned to power. Thank you very much.
Councillor Asif Khan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just, poor but beleaguered bus passengers. It's a real struggle to get from one end of it's a small town, from one end of our town to the other. Even if you want to cross out into, the Abbots Langleys and the King's Land, it's a real nightmare. You can't rely on them because sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you have to wait and then wait and then wait, and then 4 come at the same time. So they're not reliable at all. And the bus operator is Arriva at the moment, and I know it cherry picks as well. So some of the lucrative bus routes it will continue, and anything it doesn't. I remember the one through Meriden, and I remember the number 8 that they dropped because it wasn't lucrative, and all of a sudden the county council upped the subsidies and they converted the 8 to a 9 and a 10. So it's that. So one of the key things also is, obviously the county council, and on the county council, proposed in our Labour budget £4 million investment in buses, which was, I think, the Liberal colleagues here voted in favour of that, which is great. And fortunately, the meanie Tories didn't vote for £4 million investment in Herts buses. But the key thing here is also Watford Council, all of us, we're going to hopefully all vote for this particular motion, need to actually take some of these bus operators to task as well. These bus operators are also providing a service to people in Watford. And, there's a lucrative contract with Arriva Click. It's quite lucrative, yet they are some of the problems on our bus services are by Arriva. Let's get these bus operators, together and show them and tell them our voices actually no. You are taking the proverbial biscuit. Frankly, there are local companies that could provide a service within the town, and there are firms here, whether they are taxi firms or transport firms, that could provide a service within the town. But this council chose to give it to Arriva, which ends up cherry picking and providing a really poor service to Watford's residents. So although I'm sure we'll all vote and support this, there are some actions as councillors that this council can do, and also say meanie Tories at Hertford are not pulling their weight, but also we can do more in Watford as well. Thank you.
Councillor Truba.
Thank you. Obviously, as a member of the Climate Emergency and Sustainability Forum, I welcome this motion. It's really important that we get one of the more energy efficient modes of public transport to work well in our town. As a member of the Development Committee, I despair of the amount of developments that come to us without parking. I don't want parking, but in this town, people have cars, and we need to get past that. And the way we need to get past that is by creating an infrastructure, a transport method, transport links that work. I moved here, like many people, from London, and I just expected the bus service to be similar, okay, maybe not as good, but similar to London. And I remember catching the bus from outside the hospital and still being on the bus 20 minutes later for what was a 5-minute walk into the town centre, as we go around and stuck in all the traffic. So without a doubt, we need that public transport to work in Watford. Talking of bus stations, Peter and I, of course, come from one of the best bus station cities in the world, Preston Bus Station, which is famous for its bus station. And I just think it's really important that, like you say, Tim, that we don't go, that we go back to the past, that we look at it, that we look back to what was working and we make it work again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. And first of all, can I welcome Councillor Feldman back tonight, working tonight. I'm sure we all welcome him back here tonight. We largely support this motion and the support it gives to our once great public service, our bus service, which since privatisation, as Councillor Williams has said, has been so decimated across the county and the country. And yes, a recent report, again, he referred to that, a recent report showed the bus service in Hertfordshire has one of the worst records in investment and in routes and keeping them in service. And of course, it often means subsidising unprofitable but vital routes and important times. And that's what I think you have to do. And Councillor Khan has already talked about our Labour budget amendment at the County Council, where we proposed an emergency 2 million subsidy in the first year, this year, and also the year after. As the Labour Party nationally, as Councillor Tamena said, has announced last week as part of our local government campaign that an incoming Labour government, as part of a Take Back Control bill, would introduce powers early in the new government to give local authorities ability to start their own public-owned bus service. It would be the biggest change in this sector for 40 years, giving local areas in England devolved powers to reinstate cancelled routes and set affordable fares. As our front bench spokeswoman Louise Haigh said, these powers are needed because of a quiet crisis in every community. I think we know in Watford what she means. I think we need residents of Watford from all families, even those who aren't used to getting the bus, wouldn't even think of getting the bus, to be able to feel that they can easily access cleaner and a greener public bus service. And it shouldn't be just about the school children and the elderly and people who can't drive. It should be anybody who should be able to easily get on, as happens in London, as Councillor Trebar said, and others. And, you know, tonight we're recognising those who've maybe had a Damascene conversion, or, you know, and I recognise that Councillor Williams mentioned, I think it's Councillor Williams who mentioned Andy Burnham in Manchester, and I recognise Councillor Williams has talked about that this all goes back to the Thatcherite privatisation in the 80s, and of course, you know, I understand that Councillor Williams then was a Conservative, so, you know, he's understanding now that he's, you know, going back on the days when I'm sure I am assuming he has supported that privatisation, which he's obviously recognised in these 40 years was devastating for the bus service, not only in this county but across the country. So I understand that, and I you know, I sympathise with him there. I'll only say on ULEZ, because obviously ULEZ is in the paragraph. I'll only say on ULEZ that we are pleased that the Labour London Mayor is now looking into getting government help for any extension to get the scrappage scheme extended. And if it does come out to a borough like Watford, and if it eventually goes ahead, he and TfL, I've been told in the last few days, are looking at different charging methods. And we are lobbying him, just as I know the Mayor is, and his office, to look at all practical ways of easing any introduction, taking into account those affected by the cost of living and those with health and caring issues. And I do note that at the last council, when there was a motion just on ULEZ, there was statements made here by Liberal Democrats at that meeting that, for example, Mount Vernon was in ULEZ, and of course Mount Vernon isn't in the proposed ULEZ extension. And at least, never let it be said that I don't praise where it's due, at least our friend and yours, Councillor Stephen Giles Medhurst, at the Three Rivers Lib Dem motion did acknowledge that, and that was one of the part of the Lib Dem motion there, was that acknowledging that Mount Vernon, they were pleased, was not going to be in ULEZ. As there was no mention, as I say, on the Lib Dem motion at last month's meeting about the reasons for the introduction of ULEZ, because obviously it's to improve air quality by reducing the number of vehicles that don't meet emission standards, and we can argue over how we get there. But as I'm sure, as Councillor Stockley certainly knows, it helped in inner London to reduce harmful nitrogen dioxide by nearly half since its introduction. As I'm sure he knows, in his scientific line of work, he'll know and would support the outcome. So yes, we certainly do support this motion overall. Thank you.
And last but not least, Councillor Agger-Dayton.
Thank you, Chairman. I just could not resist to do not comment. Working in a local hospital, in our trust, seeing many residents every single day across the whole trust, the different places, Hemel Hempstead, St Albans Hospital, nurses, matron. It's just shocking how many people coming to my office and knocking to my door and complaining about the buses in Watford. It's very sad and frustrating that they cannot come to work, what make them be late, what make them be late for the patients. It's frustrating for the patients how they cannot reach their appointment, how the appointment are cancelled if they are too late. And ironically, listening the yesterday budget and the lack of proposing and investment in the people, but the Tory government care, it's just overwhelming and really, really sad. I fully support my colleague and I will be voting in favour for this motion. I believe, like we all, because it's important to deliver the best care for our residents. Thank you.
Can I invite Councillor Ian Stotesbury to sum up?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thanks everyone for the contributions. I'll try and remember all of them. Councillor Feldman, excellent speech as ever. I think you hit the nail on the head. Passenger numbers have reduced by a third in recent years, and if we don't see enough leadership from the operator and indeed from the regulator to improve the service, you don't see the service grow. And it's that positive virtuous cycle that the County Council has actually been managing the opposite of. As Councillor Williams said, there's a managed decline rather than a managed virtuous cycle happening across Hertfordshire. And that affects everyone's opinion of the buses. And once you get to that point where those who don't need it don't use it, then we don't see the passenger numbers grow and then support people who desperately do need this cheaper alternative. So again, thank you, Councillor Williams, for the history lesson. I'll sign up to that history class at any point. Indeed, well, I've forgotten the point now. One of the things I wanted to add, actually. So one of the things I think that you mentioned in passing was not only is the new regulators no longer being managed properly to provide reliable services, but just to add, actually, when there are changes to the service, the communication to residents is also particularly poor too. Signage that appears the day of the change or the day before the change, that's where County Council should also be stepping up and properly regulating that work. And that's in their power to do so now. And they, as far as I'm concerned, are not doing that. Councillor Bell, thank you very much for your comments too. On ULEZ, I think you'll remember we didn't oppose ULEZ. What we were saying is that Watford residents should not be strapped by the costs of bearing the entrance into the scheme. And we were calling on a scrappage scheme to be extended to Watford. I recall Watford Labour's position was that Watford Council should support said scrappage scheme, which wasn't, we think, reasonable. But the point here is that yes, we need air quality, but also those who are driving the oldest vehicles are also those most likely to be unable to afford the change. So that scrappage scheme is critical and crucial. Is that my time, boss? I've got 1 minute. Okay, well, let me sum up very quickly then. Through the STS, we can deliver the priority routes and through schemes, but we need county council to actually probably step up and regulate. It's great to hear everyone supportive of that principle. Let's send that message back to county council and let's send that message back to government. Let's get the bus services we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stotesbury. So all those in favour of the substantive motion, please show your hands. Unanimous? Yes. Okay, the substantive motion has been carried. Thank you. So the fifth motion for this evening is proposed by Councillor Pattinson and seconded by Councillor Trebar. I now invite Councillor Pattinson to move the motion, and you have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very aware that this is the motion between now and you going home, but it's so important that I will take my time to go through what I'd like to say on it. So today I speak to this council as a woman way over 40, living in Watford. I am representative of a large proportion of the population of our town, and I'm seriously concerned about the support we're able to access when, if needed, when the time comes for us to start our inevitable journey through the menopause. Less than 2 years ago, a beloved wife and mother living in Watford died as she had been unable to cope with the symptoms of menopause, and in spite of significant effort, had been unable to access the right levels of support. If the right support had been available in the right place at the right time, there could have been a very different outcome to her story, and not the unnecessary tragedy we have today. I've had the privilege to meet with Annette's family and her devoted husband, Martin, who has been the inspiration and driving force behind us working hard to drive change. Martin has supported our work with other partner organisations such as Menopause Support and Watford Football Club to raise awareness of this subject and to support and encourage a continuing conversation that will influence and drive change. It is time for there to be a significant shift in focus for our local and national menopause support. 51% of the UK population will directly experience the menopause during their lifetime. Over 13 million women in the UK are either menopausal or perimenopausal at any one time. 4.5 million of those 13 million women are in the workplace. 3 out of 4 women experience menopause-related symptoms, with 1 in 4 experiencing serious symptoms. 1.6 million working days are lost to menopause symptoms annually as a result. Now, these are critical and significant statistics, and we must also acknowledge and report that 49% of the population that will not directly experience the menopause will have either a mother, sister, wife, partner, aunt, or daughter that will. So we must not underestimate the importance of providing information to and support to all. Watford Council is a workplace for women. Most of the businesses in our town employ women. Our schools, our NHS, our care homes, the retail and hospitality industries in our town employ significant numbers of women. Recent studies have found that support for women with menopausal symptoms in the workplace is variable, and understanding by managers and other employees is often limited. In some cases, understanding and empathy is so poor that women receive insults and rude comments from colleagues and managers. As a result, many women end up leaving their workplace as they feel unable to continue in their role. I'm proud to be part of a council that is working to create an environment whereby the whole workforce feels supported with the effects of menopause, where events to educate the wider community on the effects of menopause are supported, but there is a lot more that we can do. This motion calls for the council to continue the outstanding work already been delivered, to support improved and more accessible menopause services and education. But I'm crucially asking the council today to commit to campaigning for menopause support, to work with Hertfordshire County Council and other local health organisations to ensure that support for those experiencing menopause is a central part of the Hertfordshire's health and wellbeing strategy, and to support the Make Menopause Matter campaign. This motion matters for women in Watford. It matters to me. It affects the whole population, and it is urgent. We need to create an environment and culture in our town where women feel they can access the right professional, clinical and workplace support, and can freely talk about the impact on their lives. And I hope we can improve services to women in our town so fewer women like Annette have to go through difficulties in accessing the right support at the right time. I thank you for supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Pattinson. May I now invite Councillor Truebell to second. You have up to 5 minutes and you may reserve your right to speak.
I second and I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Is anybody offering any amendments to this motion? No? Great. Please raise your hands now if you wish to speak on this motion. Sorry, what's your name? Oh, sorry, I didn't see the hand raised. Okay, so Councillor Favour, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I wouldn't take the time. I know we are fast spent. But I wanted to say I'm so pleased that this motion came to council tonight. Coping with menopausal symptoms at work and in life can be very and understandably challenging to talk about. But one of the most important things that we can do and that this motion seeks to achieve is to create awareness, to demystify the concept of menopause and to make it a comfortable conversation to have. And whatever we do, once we achieve that, we're on the road to achieving support for women. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Matt Tremaine.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief and speak respectfully, given the nature of the motion. I just wanted to raise a note about premature ovarian failure, or as it's called, early menopause, which is also an issue that affects a smaller number of people, but in a shocking and dramatic way. And also to raise a flag for the trade unions in the workplace who are doing enormous amounts of work around this campaign at the moment. I've seen in this building the Unison AGM information that's around. They're doing a tremendous amount of work, and so definitely make use of that resource. It is there. They're there to help, and they're not just there for dragging the government back to the negotiating table to get a better pay deal. Thank you very much indeed.
Councillor Ada Dyson.
Thank you, Chairman. I just fully supporting the motion. I'm not there yet, but many women a similar age, it's important to be recognized and have that reassurance that not only the workforce, but also the employee, friends, colleague and the family can understand when the time comes what you're going through and how you can support it. It's so important, especially to men and children, to understand how they all together they can overwhelm the situation what they are dealing with. Thank you.
And Mayor Peter Taylor.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I was just going to add a little bit to what Councillor Dyson said. I remember meeting Martin and other members of his family after the sad death of Annette, and I know that Councillor Treebon knows the family as well. And the conversation around that, two things that I remember. The first was actually a really important point that sometimes this can be considered a women's issue, and actually it's a town-wide issue, and it's really important that all of us have these conversations, Councillor Ezefed said, about demystifying. So I think it's really important that we do not think of this as just a women's issue. Actually, it's about people of all genders having a conversation around the menopause. And the second thing was Martin saying that actually, obviously it was very sad what happened to Annette, but that actually wanted Watford to be somewhere that led the way on this, that, you know, that some good could come out of it, and so pay tribute to the work of councillors working with other partners in the town to say, well, what can we do? And this motion is really important part of taking that forward, so it has my full support.
Many thanks, Mayor Taylor. Sarah Jane Treebell.
Thank you. I am very proud to co-present this motion with my fellow councillor, Jennifer Patterson, and I'm very proud that it's not a political matter. In fact, I even have yellow nails today for the first time in about 3 years, so it shouldn't be a political matter. But more universal agreement that things have to change. I was lucky enough to know Annette, and like many, I followed the very sad case of Nicola Bulley as well, a fellow Lancastrian. And at a time when the menopause is finally getting the correct attention it deserves, although sadly through desperate media stories, we need to stand up and fight for equal rights for women suffering from perimenopause and menopause symptoms without shame or embarrassment. And yet, when the word menopause is mentioned, it is still almost met with shame and embarrassment by people, which obviously it shouldn't be. I'm a 50-year-old perimenopause woman, and most symptoms are not easily seen. My own symptoms include fatigue, joint pain, and forgetfulness. It doesn't help when, as happened to me in the recent past, colleagues, other councillors, bring up in meetings like these that I've occasionally forgotten a meeting. More compassion needs to be shown. There needs to be more support, more solidarity, and more empathy in the workplace for women. Not with empty words and half promises, but with committed action and support. That is why I urge you all to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Truebell. Can I ask that Councillor Pattinson has her right to reply, and she has up to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I won't take any more of your time. I just thank you all very much for your support on this motion, and thank you to Sarah Jane for supporting. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask members, all those in favour, please raise your hands for the substantive motion. So the substantive motion is carried. Okay, so thank you everyone. That concludes this evening, the business of this evening. I would like to say thank you very much for all your help and support throughout my year. And I think you'd like to join me to wish Councillor Feldman all the best for his term when he becomes chair. Please join me, all of you, for some refreshments and nibbles that will be served shortly. Thank you.